For more on what travelers need to know in a situation like this, let's go live to Air Passenger Rights President, Dr. Gabor Lukacs. Gabor, thanks so much, Doctor, I should say. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. I can't imagine the frustration of, so many people at Pearson Airport right now, many of whom have probably been waiting years for their first vacation. It sounds like communication has been a bit of an issue. Some mixed messages coming from Sunwing and resulting in people waiting at the airport longer than they need to. What is a passenger's rights in a situation like this?
Good morning. This is more than just about communication. The question is, what are your rights when the airline so badly messes up? Let's understand that we are talking here about something which is quite clearly within the airline's own control. It is their computer system. It is their subcontractor who is operating that computer system. And in that case, they have to have sufficient backups. They have to have sufficient contingencies. It's unthinkable that in the 21st century, after so many technology that we have been used to, a single computer issue can shut down a whole airline or a number of airlines. In terms of passengers' rights, they are owed meals, accommodation, and for international flights also, if there are flights of other airlines to the same destination, then Sunwing has to buy those passengers tickets on those other airlines, or if the passengers themselves buy tickets, then Sunwing have to reimburse them for those. If passengers incur expenses out of pocket for things like parking, lost wages, then Sunwing will also be on the hook for that. On top of all this, Sunwing also owes passengers a standard amount of compensation for the inconvenience under their passenger protection regulations, which is $500 or $1,000 maximum, depending on when you bought a ticket. Sunwing changes status from a large carrier to a small carrier on the 12th of January this year. So if you purchased your ticket before the 12th of January, you bought a ticket on a large carrier, it will be $1,000. If it is after January 12th, then it is a small carrier, it's only $500.
Okay, what about this, the airline communicating these rights to the people who have been impacted? I can't help but think that a lot of people won't know that they are entitled to compensation for the inconvenience or for loss of pay. How do they get that information unless they tune into an interview like this?
That's a good question. Sunwing does have a legal obligation to inform passengers about some of their rights, and at least what I've seen on their Twitter messaging is that they did post that you have some rights under the Air Passenger Protection Regulations. They did not speak about the rights under the Carriage by Air Act, which would include things like lost wages, which is a more individual type of damage, different damage for each passenger, or parking lot fees and so on. That's part and parcel of the problem, but sometimes I used to think that communication is being overrated. Passengers, in my view, should always do their own research. They should never rely on just what the airline is telling them. What we teach our passengers is that don't ask the airline about your rights, but tell the airlines what your rights are and demand that they respect them.
Okay. What about a timeline here in terms of this type of compensation, getting your money back if you decide not to go on the trip? If it was me, I would be sitting in the airport thinking about the money that I'm maybe wasting as days of my vacation are being taken off this, 7-day trip. How long should people give the airline to get that money back?
Generally, the 30 days is a reasonable amount of time. So you send a letter of demand, tell the airline, you have to pay me for this and that expense, for my lost wages. Maybe I lost part of my vacation, so prorated days of vacation based on how much you paid for getting the vacation to begin with. And then you wait 30 days, you send them a clear demand. You have to pay me within 30 days. And on day 31st, I would just serve the airline with small claims court papers. No point in belaboring it. Once they understand that you mean business, once they understand that you are actually willing to go a step further, they are going to come to their senses. One important advice, though, is we recommend passengers to avoid the Canadian Transportation Agency. The reason is that the federal regulator, unfortunately, is known for its cozy relationship with the airlines of not really enforcing passenger rights and really trying to find excuses for the airlines not to pay compensation. And that's a concern that we have. So we recommend that you go to provincial small claims court route, because there you are going to get a fair hearing. Your judge may or may not agree with you, but they will have an open mind and you will not have a problem of fairness of the hearing.
Okay, some good advice. Air Passenger Rights President, Dr. Gabor Lukacs, thanks so much for joining us this morning. I'm sure a lot of people will be well served by this information. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.